the show. Danielle Mercurius. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Hey, it's Danielle Mercurio, and we have another really juicy episode lined up for you with my girl, Dana B. Myers. Dana is an entrepreneur, an author, and a media personality in the sexual wellness space. She is empowering. She helps mothers and other women reclaim their vitality, their sensuality, their sexual satisfaction so that they can really thrive in the world in the way they want to. Because if we're not feeling complete in our sexual experiences, if we are not feeling pleasured, if we are not feeling like we can ask for what it is that we want when it comes to the bedroom, then how are we going to experience pleasure and satisfaction and getting what it is that we want out in the real world? Okay? What happens in the bedroom is also very true of what happens in our everyday life. And Dana B. Myers is not afraid to bring that up and to help you heal and embody and live through that. I met Dana initially through Gabby Bernstein. I was teaching at one of Gabby's retreats at Kripalu. Dana happened to be there as one of Gabby's friends. I was like, oh my goodness, who is she? She walks in a room and there is this magnetism. There is this radiance. There is this aura, this presence where you're like, I need to be around this woman. And we got to know each other that week. We continued to be in the same realm through teaching together at Soul Camp. And she's so fun and so open. And I had the pleasure of going to one of her pleasure workshops, and it's a blast. She is just so open, non-judgmental, so ready to help women through their questions around sex. And no question is silly. No situation is dumb or should have any shame around it. And she really unpacks pleasure and sex in a way that really makes us feel good about it and really makes us feel inspired and really makes us want to take control of our own pleasure for our own selves and for our partnerships and however else you want it to play out in your life. So this is a really fun episode. You're going to really love it. I had some great takeaways from it. It got me really revved up. I will say after this episode aired, I had a couple I had like 3 dates since I interviewed her. And that was literally only like 2 weeks ago. All right. So there's something to her magic. So here's the magic. Here is the amazingness. Here is the magnetism. Here is my dear, sweet, darling friend, Dana B. Myers. All right. We're ready?
Ready.
Did we pull all the smoky quartz out of our ass?
Hold on, there's one more piece.
Okay, hold on, get it.
Got it.
You got it? All right, good. Oh, we're ready. Here we are. Hi, Dana. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm super psyched to be here and hearing your voice again. It's giving me all the feels, babe.
I know. I feel the same way. We were just like laughing before we started, and it just reminds me of like whenever we're together, we just literally fall into this like playful duo.
Yes. The last time was at Soul Camp, and I think there may or may not have been some uncontrollable and slightly inappropriate giggles around the campfire.
Yes, there was a very serious bonfire situation. And
We were not feeling serious.
Because it was Soul Camp, it wasn't, I don't even know who that person was that facilitated it. That person has exited my brain space.
Yeah, well, he hasn't exited mine.
Oh.
But either way, I think, we just brought the joy. We brought the joy.
We brought the mojo.
We brought it.
Is what you're all about.
Yeah, that is what I'm all about. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I was actually just stalking your Insta stories.
Yes.
And I saw you keep an orgasm journal.
I do.
Tell me about this.
I keep an orgasm journal. I feel like I've always kept a journal since I was young. And, there've been phases in my life where, as women and even teenagers, we write like dramatic poetry about the boyfriend or the this or the that or the heartbreak or the friends or this. And what wound up happening is that I was always writing, getting my feelings out about, the challenges in my life. And then I thought, well, why don't I write about all the pleasure in my life? And so I started writing about my orgasms because those are just straight up pleasure. And I write about like the mood I'm in, the tools I use, what prompted it, kind of how I warm myself up. And I keep a journal. I could call them my O notes.
Ooh.
And I will often start my live workshops by reading one of these entries, and people just freak out because they've never heard anyone share. Like, people don't really share about this kind of stuff. And I think it's important to do it.
It's so important. And well, okay. So basically this entry that do you refer back to them? And clearly you do, you share them at your workshops. So you just like to kind of oh, let's look at what I did 2 weeks ago to myself.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes it's about, sometimes I'll share it to like give people an idea of like the variety of situations and scenarios in which you can pleasure yourself. Like, I had a particularly difficult meeting at my kids' school where I got some news that I really wasn't expecting. And I came home and I was like, okay, 2 choices. I can worry and get totally crazy and go down that dark tunnel, or I can have an orgasm. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I think setting the tone with an orgasm is a better idea. And so I like to kind of show people that like it's always a tool that's at your disposal to choose to feel good and then deal with your problems.
Yes.
But I like to choose that. I like to choose to feel good and write about it. And also when you find yourself in like a sexual rut, to be able to open up that orgasm journal and see record of all this pleasure, it helps you remember like, oh, why am I avoiding that right now?
I'm capable.
I'm capable. And it's right there. Like my hand can reach. So
yeah. So do you wash your hands before you write in your journal? Or is there just a special pen that's just like steaming with all your pleasure right now?
There's a pen. It's from Kripalu.
Oh, perfect.
I love those Kripalu pens. If you've been to Kripalu,
I have a Kripalu pen. Yes,
the Kripalu pen. So I use the Kripalu pen. It's infused with the energy of Kripalu.
And your pussy.
And my pussy. Look, my pussy's very powerful. I when I was on what I called my husband safari. This was a long time ago now because I've been married for almost 15 years. So about 17 years ago, I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready to find my husband. I'm ready to like be serious. And so I got on all the dating websites and I received a love spell from a friend of mine who's this very cosmic fashion designer in New York. Her name is Elisa Jimenez and the Hunger World. And she made me a dress and she sort of wraps you in fabric and cuts wings into it and ties it up with fishing wire. It's very fairy-like. And she said, this is the dress that is going to bring you your man, but you need to do something while you're wearing it. So you need to think about the qualities that you want in your man and, nothing superficial, but like the real deal. And then put this dress on and masturbate in it. And then take the list that you wrote your wishes on, press it up against your body, seal it with your love juice, right? And then wait. And I did that, and I met my husband 11 days later. So that's very whether the whether it gets on the journal or my pen or not, I think it's pretty good stuff.
It's all fair play. That's amazing. I didn't know that story.
That is truly and honestly the story of how I met my husband.
So delicious.
Pleasure for manifestation. When I was orgasming, I was like sending my orgasm out into the cosmos to draw him down as if it was a beacon of light. And apparently it was.
Totally. I absolutely believe that. I believe that. My orgasms are so connected to the cosmic sphere. And there is this it's almost like this portal is being created through my pussy. And it's almost as if like a portal in the cosmos is activated and this like funnel is just literally and literally dripping everything.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. And it's like, why... so many hundreds of years of being disconnected to this source of energy. And it's nice that it is a more open conversation these days. That's very nice.
It is. And, it takes individuals like us, or just, maybe you're listening and you're that person that will bring it up with your girlfriends or your friends and say, like, this is what I do. Because I think people understand that there is pleasure behind an orgasm. However, a lot of people, again, we're not talking about it and they don't even know where to start. Sure. And so, like, even to your point when you were saying, like, okay, I had a meeting that didn't leave me sitting that well about my children. And so I came home and I made a choice to infuse pleasure. How does someone even make that shift? Because I know that for some people, like, for them to be like, okay, I'm going to choose pleasure. And so I don't know how to make that shift. I don't know how to shift out of the scenario that isn't serving me or pleasing me into then all of a sudden being in pleasure.
Totally. That can feel like a really dramatic shift for someone who's not, practiced in it, or for someone who's never been even awakened to the idea that it's possible to sort of be in crisis and then be like, yeah, I'm going to choose to rub one out. Like, that's a big jump.
Yes.
Well, I think that, how do you make that shift? I really think it's just like practicing a mindset. And, before we let ourselves go into any kind of doom spiral of worry and fear or self-doubt, it's to pause and say, like, what do I actually want to choose here? And how do I get myself to a place where I feel grounded and calm so I know how to approach this insert problem, right? And getting grounded, using masturbation to feel grounded and calm is a really great option. So I think it's just practicing getting yourself grounded and asking yourself, how do I want to feel in this moment? Do I want to immediately start freaking out, or do I want to take a minute to connect with myself and feel good and be in pleasure? Now, an orgasm might not be the immediate choice for everyone, but hugging yourself, you could stand in the mirror and just to give yourself positive affirmations. You could make yourself a cup of tea and sit down on the floor and write in your journal. Like, it doesn't have to be an orgasm, although
I'd rather.
I recommend it because it's such a big boost of pleasure and such a big boost of joy. And it can also, look, after that meeting that I had about my kid, I came home and I masturbated. And then after I orgasmed, I burst out crying. So it facilitated the emotional release that I needed. It's not that the orgasm takes away your feelings about a situation, but it kind of creates an ability for you to process those feelings through pleasure. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, it allows us to tap into energy and to move it around. And that's what I really appreciate about it. It's, it's like, I need to move this energy. And again, you could try dancing, you could try, doing certain things, journaling, write it out, walk it out. However, this is another way to move energy through so you can get to that place where you needed to be. And as soon as you shifted your energy, you cried. And that just goes to show you, it's not just about like, oh, I know, I'm just going to remove myself from this situation and like be blinded in pleasure from like an addictive perspective, or like make the problem go away by like enforcing this pleasure. But instead you're like, no, I just need to move through this. And this is my tool. Just like meditation too. I think, and to your point, even like with meditation, I think there's a lot of misconceptions around that too. And I think people always think like, well, I have to do it right, or the goal is to reach this state of nirvana. And I think people think that with orgasm too. It's like, I have to do it this way. I have to reach this state of ecstasy. But that might not always be the case. There are times where you're going to sit on your meditation cushion and you're just not going to be able to get anywhere. And that can happen with masturbation too.
Totally. Yeah, totally. You can hit a plateau and get frustrated, or, not feel like you can quite get there. You get overstimulated, or you can't, calm your mind, and your mind is everywhere else. But like with meditation, it's okay to let the thoughts, come and go, and then try to bring yourself back into the present moment. And even if you don't come, it's still a valuable practice in connecting with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. It's true. One time my mind was really off and it was like wandering. Next thing I know, like the batteries were dead. I'm like, oh,
the worst.
Okay. All right. Never again. That was a waste.
Oh God, it's the worst when the batteries die.
Yeah, you haven't heard this one. So this is a newer comedy joke. So the interesting moments in my life are the ones where the battery runs out. I don't have any, and I'm like searching around my house like half naked, and then I like look over at the TV remote, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna use you so that I can finish my masturbation session. Not the remote itself, but the batteries, right? And I'm just like, yeah, like this is the point of my life right now that I literally need to leave my bedroom, go to the TV remote, and use those batteries so I can finish my orgasm.
Totally. You do what you got to do.
Yeah, you do what you got to do.
You do what you got to do.
Praise be. Yeah. So speaking about masturbation, you were mentioning a full moon.
Oh yeah. So a couple weeks ago, there was a full moon, and it was a wolf moon. And I like had this plan, and my kids were sleeping, and it was almost midnight, and my husband was sleeping next to me, and I was gonna pull some of my moon goddess cards and, just get a little witchy and write in my journal. And I pulled this card that was called Howl at the Moon. And I was like, oh my God, it's a wolf moon. It says howl at the moon. I'm aligned. I'm in with spirit. And the ritual in the guidebook, the decks come with guidebooks. The ritual in the guidebook said, dress like a goddess and go outside and howl at the moon. And I was like, great, okay. So I kind of tiptoed out of bed as to not wake Charlie. And I went in my closet and I put on this like lacy goddessy nightgown. And I tucked the tarot card like in between my breasts over my heart. And I was like, I should grab my vibrator. So I grabbed my vibrator, which it didn't say on the card, but we now know that's how I roll.
Yes.
And I took myself out onto the pool deck because it's Miami, so it's warm. And I started making love to myself. Uh-huh. And I was like under the full moon and in the wind. And I was like, this is pure feminine magic. And I started to find my rhythm, and I was riding my vibrator like it was a wild stallion. And I was like, okay, this feels amazing. I could feel my orgasm building, and that inner tremble, when you go to the next level, you're like, yeah, I'm clicking in. This is great. And the finish line was in sight. And then I was like, oh my God, the card told me to howl. Should I howl? Because I live in a residential neighborhood and I'm in my backyard, and are the neighbors up? And am I is this secure? Are the security cameras going to be triggered? And then I'm like, oh my God, what if there's a raccoon? Because there's so many raccoons here. So I'm masturbating, but I'm like, oh my God, what if there's a raccoon who's peeping on me and who's going to be alarmed by the howling? Should I howl? And then I was literally, should I howl? And then my body whispered, yes, you should howl. You should howl. And so I did. And I masturbated outside, and I was howling at the moon. And I let myself ride with it. And a lot of people talk about the connection between, your vocal cords and your pussy.
Yes.
And I think that connection's really real. And, when you activate your voice and your throat, and you allow yourself to express your pleasure through your voice, which is really scary to a lot of women.
It is.
And even to me who teaches this stuff, I was a little nervous out there because I was sort of unprotected in the wilderness, granted the wilderness of my suburban enclave, but still I felt a little nervous, will someone be on to me, but I chose in that moment to be I don't fucking care.
Right.
I'm just going to go for this. I'm going to fully express myself. And I felt so connected to my body and so connected to myself and so connected to my intuition, because I listened to my body said, yes, you should howl. And I listened. Mm-hmm. And
so your body responded and was so lit up.
Totally.
And so pleased with you.
Totally. And it's a choice to listen to your intuition instead of your self-doubt. And it's so rewarding because look, we all have self-doubt, right? But it's so rewarding to just listen to your gut and choose to roll with it and let that inner voice be stronger than your inner critic and stronger than your self-doubt. And it was just this beautiful reminder that, that howling at the moon experience is such a beautiful reminder of the power of self-pleasure and all the lessons and the growth that are in it. It's not just the physical pleasure of an orgasm. There's so many layers to explore and to be rewarded with. So
I really appreciate that story on a lot of levels.
thank you.
If you find out that I'm up on my roof howling until
Telling you, howl at the moon, howl at it.
really give it a whirl. I really appreciate it for a lot of reasons, and I really like the animal instinct part of it. I've been really feeling like actually a friend of mine was telling me like the other week she was hooking up with this guy and she was like, he was just making animal noises, and she was like, I had never been like so turned on and responded to such like primal like energy coming through him, because it was just, we were like in our animal core, and I think it's so important to embody that, and it does come from our voice. Though we have to open up our mouth, we have to be fully expressed, and then if the animal instinct wants to come through, if the groans, the moans, mimic some kind of wolf or tiger or bird, whatever it freaking needs to be, like unleash.
Unleash it. So good.
Yeah. So, clearly it is a problem, though, that people are not asking for what they need in the bedroom. So moving aside from solo play, when we look at a relationship, a lot of times when individuals are engaging in sex, they're kind of giving the power to the other person. What do you want? How do you want me to show up for you? I'm scared to say what I actually want you to do to me.
Totally. There's so much fear around that. And I think that there's so much sex advice is like, encourages women to ask for what they want. But there's a problem with that advice if that's the only advice, because so many women actually just don't know what they want. And so many women are still socialized to be accommodating and to go along and to be agreeable. And we're just, not conditioned to express our desires. It's as simple as like, when your boyfriend says, where do you want to go for dinner? Well, where do you want to go for dinner? It's like an instinct, right?
Yeah.
And so, of course, that also, comes into the bedroom. So I think it starts, having the confidence to express what you want in detail in the bedroom really starts with knowing what you want out of the bedroom. So taking a moment and journaling, what are my desires? I call it the desire download. Sit down and just download all your desires. I want to be touched like this. I want to try this position. I saw this power dynamic on Outlander, or I read it in a book of erotica, or on my favorite like whatever. I saw this power dynamic. I want to play that out. I want to try this toy. I want to wrestle. I want you to pet me like a cat. Like, download all your desires without censoring yourself, because look, you don't have to share them all. So really don't censor yourself. And
then research.
Yeah. Do your research, figure it out, and if you're like, wait, I really don't even know where to start there. Literally think back to, a moment in your life when you did feel turned on. So and just think, what was it about that moment? And then try to draw your inspiration or your sexual request or desire from that moment. And then practice saying it in the mirror so that you get comfortable with how your voice sounds in making that request. Because when you're naked, you feel more vulnerable. And so if you don't have the confidence in how your voice sounds in saying, I want you to pet me like a cat, or I want you to use the sex toy this way, or move your hand clockwise in this direction, practice saying it in the mirror until you get really comfortable with it. And I know that sounds really funny, and maybe it sounds really simplistic, but it helps so much when you're in the moment and you're like, wait, I know how my voice sounds and I'm confident enough to say it to myself. And then you just open your mouth and you let it out.
It makes so much sense, of course, because you're so right. Like, even if you know deep down, I am supposed to ask when my partner says, what do you want? Or there's an open window and you're like, oh, I know I want to say something. But then you're like, oh, I don't know. And then it turns into like, well, whatever you want. And it's like, oh. And like, it doesn't feel good for either person.
Right. Exactly. But if you have a couple desires in your back pocket that you've actually practiced saying and you feel comfortable in the language and the word choices that you've selected, then you're going to be so much more comfortable to say it in the moment. And what would you? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, what would you say to someone, because there is that fear of, what if I do say what I want and, the partner doesn't respond?
I mean, I think it's highly unlikely for, you know, a partner who is confident and giving enough to ask, what do you want, or how can I please you? I think your request would have to be pretty extreme for them to be like, no way.
Right. That's true.
In that moment. Now, if you do have a request that is maybe a little bit more out there, or a little bit more, you know, fantasy driven, then I would just say you try this desire download exercise together outside of the bedroom, so that everybody has enough advance notice to, you know, sort of put some planning into this. So it's that it's not expressed in the moment and creating room for rejection. So if you want your boyfriend to, you know, pretend to be Antonio from Spain, and you don't want to, like, you know, that's a big request, right?
Yeah. Give him a heads up.
Give him a heads up. So you can practice the accent and, you know, practice, like, come up with some moves or scenarios. So, like, something like that, if you want to, you know, try something really new, or something that, you know, is more than like, you know, lick me in this way, bring it up outside the bedroom. And say,
right. So you're not in the middle.
Yeah.
And then being like, be Antonio. And they're like, what?
Who's
Antonio?
Who's Antonio? Yeah, you know, look, it's, you know, everybody feels more sensitive naked and exposed. So, you know, give your lover a little bit more of a heads up if your requests are a little bit more advanced. But also, you know, there's this tool that I call seductive vocalization, which is a really easy way to kind of communicate during sex to get what you want. And also, a lot of women will tell me, like, oh, how do I deal with the situation when my boyfriend is, you know, giving me oral sex and it's really great and I'm building up, and then he gets overexcited and he starts going too fast and he starts using his hands in a way that I don't like, and then I don't know what to do. And I always say, look, while he's giving you pleasure that you really, really like, be super expressive in your praise. You know, oh, that feels so good when you kiss me that way. The direction you're moving your tongue is perfect. Don't stop, don't stop. Right? So you're really boosting your partner up when they're doing something that feels really, really good. So that if they do get overexcited and switch in the moment as you feel like you're building up with your orgasm, you just say, oh, babe, do more of that thing you were just doing, and use the same language that you used when you were praising. So it's not don't do that. Why did you stop doing that and doing this now? So you're not breaking the flow. You're just making a suggestion to keep doing what they were doing. It's very subtle.
Yes, I use that, and I find it to be very supportive, and it works really well, because they definitely get a little too handsy and they just get excited, like you said, and it's like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah. Wait, hold on.
Okay. And there was one time he got so excited, I literally needed an ice pack the next day.
Ouch. Yeah. Like, you need the massage gun, the hypervolts, like, just, you know, hold up.
Yeah. That was a moment. I'm like, am I really ice packing I'm like, you know what, I am. And
a good story to tell.
Yeah, there could be worse things I could be doing.
That's true.
Know, like not having a reason to ice my
vagina. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, so that's and that's a really great way to do that. So I love that. So really just I especially like the part about really allowing yourself to be in that space outside of the bedroom, to really have that conversation with yourself and your body and your needs, and be really clear on, this is what I would love to see happen with my partner. So that way, when you're in that, you can express it and you know what to say. It's like studying for a test. When they ask the question, you can answer.
Yes. And also, you know, look, if you're really struggling to verbalize what you want, then do some research on your own, finding some feminist porn where you like exactly what's happening, and then watch it with your partner and just act out what you're seeing. You know, if you're afraid to say, I want you to kiss me this way or move your hand in this way, but you really like the way the people are doing it in the Erica Lust clip that you're watching, just be like, hey, I saw this clip. It really turned me on. Let's do what they do. That's pretty easy.
Yes. And it's great foreplay.
It's great foreplay.
I like it. Okay. So let's go I want to go on the flip side with you now.
Yes.
So the culture of sex is changing in a lot of ways, or maybe, and when I say changing, in some ways I feel like it's the same. However, it's more public. I feel like there's more awareness, there's more information. Yeah. Individuals are more open about their sexual status.
Yeah.
Some things that I'm noticing, like I'm a big fan of Real Housewives. I love me some Bravo. Do you watch it?
I don't, but I want to. So I don't know if that counts. I don't not watch it because I have anything against it.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm at with my watching.
I feel like because you're supposed to be one.
Right. I am one.
Yeah. Like that would be that Howling at the Moon would have been an amazing episode.
Oh, God. Yes. Well, and maybe 10 years ago in my 30s, I would have said yes. And now I'm just sort of like, happy to be a little bit more private, which is very interesting. That's a very interesting shift in me as well.
That is an interesting shift.
But carry on the thread.
Oh, yeah, yes. So anyway, one of the Real Housewives of Orange County, one of the couples was expressing how they have an open marriage and, they bring other women into the bedroom with them. And, individuals are becoming more open and individuals are becoming more fluid. Monotony is like on the line. And I'm just curious your thoughts on kind of how this culture is kind of being more, I just feel like we're more aware.
It's very interesting. We are more aware. The conversation about, alternatives to monogamy is a hot conversation right now.
It is.
And, it's a conversation that, Charlie and I, that's my husband, we've been in the sexual wellness industry for 15 years. So we're very open in our conversations about, our relationship and our sex life and what do we want? What do we don't want? What don't we want? And look, we have 2 kids who are pretty young, right? Our kids are 6 and 9. And, in the moments where, look, I don't feel like monogamy is completely natural. And I don't think Charlie does either, but we have chosen right now to be monogamous. And I think, with our kids and the ages that they are, I feel like that's the right choice for right now. I am not equipped personally, and of course it's a personal choice, I think, to handle the complications of what it takes to create alternatives to monogamy. To me, that seems like another full-time job, and I've already got several. But I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that we are at a point in our culture where, patriarchal constructs are being challenged, and monogamy is a patriarchal construct.
100%.
And it's a religious construct, and it's a political construct, and a financial construct. But I'm not sure that this is the beginning of like a new society.
I agree.
I don't think that, in 30 years' time, marriage will be, extinct. No. I just think that, I think we'll see more and more of it, but I don't think that all of society is going to dramatically change and become non-monogamous. What do you think?
I mean, look who we voted into office. Clearly, the majority of our culture is still very much on that track of conservative.
Yeah.
And whatnot. So I don't think it's happening overnight. And I think a lot of this, I find it interesting. I really love the way that people are being more self-expressed. And for me, something that's been happening, the fact that I'm 36 and I am single, I'm dating, but I am 36, and in technical traditional views, that's considered like, okay, you're starting to get to that space of like, are you getting married? Is this happening for you? And there was a part of me, honestly, for the past like 2 years, where I was kind of holding so tight to wanting to have the traditional marriage and partnership that I was actually blocking myself off from sexual expression.
Right.
And a part of me that's like, I don't even know if I want traditional or not. But I think because traditional has always been kind of the projection, and I wanted to meet the expectations of that projection, and sometimes it feels easier to just do what everybody else is quote unquote doing, that I was like holding on to that. Whereas now I'm like, you know what? Like I spent the last 2 years just kind of like waiting and being really conservative with my sex life and thinking that I had to act a certain way to kind of call in a certain kind of relationship. And that's not true to me. And so as I've been seeing other people kind of open up, it's just kind of giving me permission to continue to explore this and like
totally
just see how I want to go about it. But regardless, it's like I'm not holding on to this notion of traditional.
Yeah. I think that I think it's wonderful to break down some of these traditions. I think that there's, I have so many questions about open relationships or polyamorous living.
Yeah.
And reading about, people living in communal groups and having many lovers and all sort of raising families together. And part of that's incredibly exciting to me. Because, variety, sexual variety is exciting, emotional variety is exciting. I think that when you have relationships, you always learn something new about yourself. And I also think that, like Esther Perel says, expecting one person to be your everything, your best friend, your most erotic lover, your incredible partner in parenting, it's like, that's a lot of pressure to put on one person and to be put on you. And it doesn't even make sense. But there's something about the like full sort of open or communal loving and living situation that just scares me because it feels so unknown.
Right.
And I find it interesting, but again, I'm also very happy.
Yes.
In a relationship. I'm very happy with my sex life, and I've been having sex with the same damn person for 17 years. And that shit ain't easy. Like you gotta work to keep it fresh. And new and interesting. But and for me, often fantasy, and I'm very much live in my imagination. So far, fantasy in my imagination has been enough to sort of fuel me. And, the occasional journey to a strip club in Amsterdam,
Sure. Just for a little,
titillation.
Just for a little champagne, that's all.
A little champagne.
Yeah, I feel that. And I guess for me, I mean, do I feel like my next phase is to find the commune or to participate in, like, that doesn't feel true either. However, I think for me, what was important was to just say, like, you know what, like, yes, I think it would be chaotic if we didn't have some structure and some kind of construct of how we are moving partnerships and family forward in the way that our society has been kind of built, so to speak. So there is that, but also realizing that I currently at this space and time do have more freedom than I was allowing myself. And that was kind of a big change for me.
Love that. And God bless that freedom. God bless it.
It's been a lot more fun. Yeah, so much more fun. Dating more, like just being open to experimenting, trying different things out, because it's like, yes, and why not? And it feels really good in the moment, and that's what I am really excited about.
That's amazing. I want to hear more details when you can tell me.
Yeah, I'm not ready to reveal everything on the show just yet.
Obviously.
No. Or I either reveal it like behind closed doors or at my comedy show. It's like one or the other.
Oh my God, totally.
But I am trying to, like, it is funny though when you tell jokes around your sex life. I have to make very clear boundaries sometimes with the universe to be like, no, I like this guy. Let's not make it into a joke, please.
Right. Oh my God.
Because it'll happen. Like I'll start to see the shift happen where like I was on this one date with someone and it was going really well. And then all of a sudden he just started sweating like a crazy person, like dripping, like pools of sweat. It was just, I know. And I was like, oh my gosh, why is he sweating? I don't know. And then there was a moment where literally, like clearly he drank all his water and the waiter came over, refills my glass and then walks away. And there's this like, this awkward moment of like me having a full glass of water, his is empty, he's sweating profusely, and I'm like, do I say something, do I not? And then I was like, no, you know what I said, universe, cut it out, like this isn't the time. And then literally a second later someone else came over and refilled his water and he stopped sweating.
Thank goodness. Sweating is uncomfortable.
I know. I know.
This is so off topic, but like living in Miami, it's hot AF here. Right. I mean, like unbearably for like 4 or 5 months of the year. So I carry around these amazing rechargeable fans.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody wants to steal them from me because they're so amazing. I was thinking maybe I should do that as another business.
Why not?
Just carry a little suitcase of fans around and sell them on the spot to hot, flashy women everywhere.
Perfect. Happening.
Off topic.
But it's not the affiliate link. We're here for it.
That's right. Oh God, so funny. So funny.
Yes. But anyway, I don't know what but I was talking about traditional. Yeah. So I was just curious your thought process and all that. And
I think it's interesting as someone who obviously, you know, I love to study sex and talk about sex and you know, be a witness to, you know, what's happening in this space. I think it's very interesting. I do. I think it's very interesting. But you know, we'll see where it goes. I also, you know, as much as I love sharing,
mm-hmm.
I also feel like we don't have to share absolutely everything.
Right.
I don't know really where I'm going with that, but
in any capacity.
In any capacity, I just think that certain things, like I said, you know, I'm becoming slightly more private, or feeling like I want to hold a few things a little bit more sacred.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that there's this urgency with social media to share everything, and you know, I see some couples in their 30s, you know, just sharing everything about their relationship online. And I'm like, you guys just started. Like, does everything have to be public? Like,
mm-hmm.
you know, maybe get to know each other outside of the public's eye. Yeah. It's a phenomenon, I think. And because I'm a little bit older, I sort of missed that moment, that cultural moment. Mm-hmm. So I share a lot, but there were certain things that developed in my life outside of this pressure to share, or this natural urge to share that's happening now. Right. I just find it interesting. I find it interesting. Like, you know, in 20 years, will we be happy that we shared absolutely everything? Or will we be like irritated that we weren't just more in the moment enjoying our life instead of filming it as it was happening?
Exactly. I feel like it'll be a little bit of both. Yeah. I think there'll be part of us that's like, yes, I'm so glad I was able to express myself and share these moments. And other parts like, no, actually, that was sacred, or that wasn't necessary, or I wasn't really present to the situation because I was so busy filming it. And how often do we really go back and look at our videos and look at our photos and we don't. So it's like we're so hyper-focused and obsessed to like shoot a photo of everything. Like I joke now, like my phone eats first, right? Because my phone has to take a photo of the freaking plate before I can eat it. And it's like, to what point do we create some space? But what's also interesting is, again, we're in this very interesting age right now where it's like we're at a cross between, is this the age of the narcissist or just the age of technology and using it as a way to fuel who you are forward?
Right.
And that's an interesting spot that we're in. And so regardless of what you're using social media for, I think it's important to have boundaries.
Yes, totally. The other day I had a little barbecue with just a few friends, and one of my friends is a vegan recipe developer, and she made some new products, and she came over and she brought them, and she was like, I'm going to make you guys a dressing. And we were in the kitchen and we had a couple cocktails and we were all excited. And I was like, I felt, because she's got like a big social media presence, and I felt like, oh, I should film her because this is something that she would want to use. Like, right. And I was like, oh, let me grab my phone. And she was like, no, fuck it. Like, let's just be together. Like, don't. And I just thought, this is so great. This is so great. Like, I was trying to do it because I thought that way would help you, but I didn't really want to do it. Right. And I'm so glad that she said that. And then we just wound up having a great girls moment in the kitchen without the phone, without feeling like we had to capture it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's so much better. And again, it especially like, you know, I always like to geek out around branding and being an entrepreneur because I'm in that world. It's like, know your brand and stay with it. Like for me, you actually will never find pictures of anyone I'm dating. You really don't even find pictures of my friends. I don't really highlight that unless there's a certain moment where I'm like, this is hilarious, or it just feels really joyous and I want to share it, or I love my best friend, here she is.
Yes.
But like, that's not my brand. My brand, like part of what I do in the world and the kind of clients that I want to attract aren't clients that are looking for pictures of me with my boyfriend, aren't looking for pictures of me, you know, cheersing that we're all having cocktails right now. They're looking for information. They're looking for insight. They're looking for guidance. They're looking to transform their life. And I want to show them that I live a good life, but that's like on the bottom. Whereas like, I'm very clear on what I like to showcase. And otherwise I'm actually very private. I don't feel a need to show certain aspects of my personal life because I'm just like, those are for me and they're not really for my business or your business.
Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a piece of it. Yeah. So anyway, all right, let's get sexier again.
Yeah. We start off topic.
Sorry, that was not sexy enough for everyone listening.
Can you edit? You want to edit that out?
Yeah, I should have told you. Dana, I really liked it when you were talking about the way you were howling. If we could do more of that, please.
Yes, let's go back to that.
That would be great. Well, actually, I am curious. One of the things, we were just talking about things being private, but I do think it's helpful we've talked about kind of getting clear on like how you can start to engage with solo play, how you can start to get clear on how you want to engage with what you want with your partner, but then having these conversations with your girlfriends, making it more public. And I feel like that's a lot of the work that you do when you go into a workshop, like you open up that door right away. And I'd love to hear more of the benefit by doing that.
Oh God. Yeah. There's so much benefit in doing that. I think that's, look, anytime I go into a workshop, I always know that 50% of the room is going to be terrified. Like they were brave enough to show up, but if I'm going to call on them, their eyes are darting around the room, like, please don't call on me.
And I've been to one of your workshops and it definitely is like that.
Yeah. And so, it's this kind of beautiful process. And it is why I always, to me, I have to lead by example, right? I have to share my truth so openly and honestly and joyfully and without shame and sharing my fumbles as well along the way so that others go, oh, okay, I see it's possible. I see it's possible to be brave and share my truth. And, it was interesting. At a workshop that I did last week, I was trying to get everyone to do this desire download exercise in public, in a group of women, all sharing our desires. And it was like pulling teeth. And halfway through, I was like, okay, I'm getting the message.
Yes.
I'm getting the message, guys, that like, you guys are too afraid to share. You don't want to share. So what's going on? And inevitably, that's where someone gets brave enough to say, I wasn't brought up to do this. I was taught that this was dirty to talk about this. I was taught it was dirty to think about this. I was taught that I should be ashamed if I have desires that aren't just like kissing, touching, penetration. And so I think, I don't remember exactly what you're.
No, I love I wanted to talk about this anyway. So keep going with the whole.
Yeah, it's this process of helping women feel safe enough to know that they're not alone in feeling shame or embarrassment or a block around this topic, and sort of guiding them, with baby steps to feel safe enough. And, I think that there's a girl at the workshop last week who I focused in on with, I said, she felt blocked to expressing her desires. And she felt like she was taught to keep them to herself. And with that, you start to shut down. And so you start to not really know what it is that you want. And I said, okay, look, let's just go over these 3 questions. Like, what did you learn? Okay, what's the message that you learned growing up about sex or about this embarrassment or about this block that's keeping you from being expressed? So just what is it? Just say it out loud. And who'd you hear it from? Was it your mom or your dad or your cousin or the church or wherever? Where did you hear it? And then the second thing to look at is like, do you believe it? Do you still believe it as a grown woman? Do you actually still believe it? Or does it not ring so true to you anymore? And if you don't believe it, and if it doesn't ring true, or it's not sitting with you, or it's not serving you, or it's keeping you blocked, or it's keeping you from having the best sex and connection and intimacy that you want, Then number 3, can you choose to like rewrite the script? Can you choose to rewrite how you want to see it now as a grown-ass woman? And I guided the audience through that process. And I have to tell you, that's that golden moment for me where I go, oh, this is why I do what I do. Yes. That's that golden moment where I'm like, oh my God, I actually feel like I'm of service to people now. Because I see the relief in women's eyes when they go, oh, I don't believe it anymore. And I can rewrite how I want to do it now. And to me, that's really why I do what I do. And that's, an example of those magical moments that happen when you create space for women to feel comfortable and kind of break down the obstacles to talking about this topic.
Oh, so good. I remember that moment when I realized a lot of the stories and the voices I was hearing around my sexual behavior were not mine. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is your thought process. Yeah. This isn't mine. That's why I felt so conflicted all the time, because I am a very sexual person. I love it. I adore it.
No, you are.
Yes. And to then have these conservative, prudish thoughts or shame or this is wrong. It's like, wait, this is so counterintuitive. And so I love this exercise that you are facilitating. And I encourage everyone listening to ask yourself these questions and see what.
And you know what? Do it in a circle of sisters. Like, do it because look, sisterhood heals, right? And if you can bring this conversation up, if you can be the bold one who brings this conversation up and goes through those 3 simple questions with your friend, it's like sharing your truths amidst a group of other women in a safe space. That has the power to really release the heavy weight of sexual guilt or shame or old beliefs or beliefs that don't serve you anymore.
Yes. I love this. It's so great. And I encourage everyone listening to gather a group of your favorite people, your closest friends, and have this conversation, have this release together, and then celebrate.
Totally.
Love.
Celebrate and then go home and masturbate.
Yes. Yum. I'm like, oh, where's my phone? I need to start a group chat right now. Get this going.
So
please.
Good.
So good. Love it. Well, oh my gosh, you're amazing. I adore you.
Thank you. You're amazing. I adore you. This just felt like spending an hour with a dear old friend. It was a total pleasure.
Yeah, you're the best. So how can everyone stay connected with you? I know that they're curious for more.
Yes. Check out my website. It's Dana B. Myers, and that's MYERS, DANABMYERS. I've got a lot of free resources up on the site, some great videos. I publish new content every week. There's a mini Mojo Makeover quiz and journey that you can go on that's free. There's a lot of free stuff there to check out and get to know me and hopefully just gather some good inspiration and really practical tools that you can take in your life and create a better experience of self-love and sex and pleasure.
Yes. Oh, I appreciate you so much. Your boldness, your bravery, and the way that you are just so open and I don't want to say carefree, but you allow people to really feel safe. You don't judge. You're so open. That's the word I wanted, open. Just your openness and excitement around what and how you facilitate that to others is just such a gift.
Thank you, honey. I appreciate what you do, and you just as an amazing human, a sexy, funny human you are.
Yum. Love it.
You.
Love you too. Thank you for being on.
Yeah, thank you.
And always. Now it's time to go be on somewhere else. About to go turn some of my equipment on.
Go charge them up. Charge up the wands.
Yes. Let's drop this mic and pick up something else. Okay. Awesome. That was great. So tell me, did you love this episode? While I may not need your validation, I certainly love it. So go ahead and make sure that you are following or subscribed or have reviewed this podcast in whatever app you listen to. And let's support the show by supporting each other. Share this out with a friend or someone that you know would just love to have a juicy listen. I adore you. You're amazing. Thank you.